Right, what we're going to do now is start looking at putting together a whole bunch of stuff to make a graphic. So I'm going to start with a circle, you know this tool, so I'm going to click there and I'm going to hold down Control to keep it constrained. You can see it's red at the moment, which is fine. I've finished with the circle tool, back over to my standard select tool. So we'll go there, and what we're going to do, this is going to combine a bunch of things that we already know. We're going to put a gradient on this. Okay, so we're going to go over here into Fill, and if we click over to that one, it will give us a gradient. In this case, we're going to make what's known as an 8-ball, you know, for pool. So we're going to have a circular gradient. So we don't want that linear one. We want a radial gradient like that. So that makes it go like that. And as you know, if you come down to the gradient tool and click on that, you can do your editing of colors there. So what we need to do is turn this into a black 8-ball. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to turn this into black, so push it right up over to the black, and as you can see it goes from black to red, and that looks quite cool. But what we need to do is actually turn this one into white, so I'll click on the central one and move the slider down here to white, like that, and that automatically gives us a sphere type shape. And what we're actually trying to do here is simulate how light would shine on an object to give it a sort of 3D effect. So I'm just going to grab this with the gradient tool and move it up to the sort of top left of the object. And I'm just going to drag this out and move it around until it looks like I'd like it. And what I'm sort of after here is kind of simulating a light source coming and hitting this thing down on that area there. And that looks pretty good. So I'll click off that. There we go. It's got a spherical look to it. Next step is to put the little white circle on it as a pool ball has. So I'll click this one, click and drag. Now this is going to go directly to white because it was the last color we used. We can hold down Control again to get that in the right place, and I'll move that around. Zoom in a wee bit, Control and scroll wheel, so I can see what I'm doing. And there we are, we're looking good. Click off that, and there's the little circle that the 8 goes in. So how do we put an 8 in there? We have what's known as the text tool, or if I click on that there, you can see that one, and I'm going to actually click and drag a box. As you can see, I'm not in this area, and as soon as I've done that, it's set by default to sans 40, and the font is just set like that, and I'm just going to type in 8 just by pressing 8. There you go. So that looks good. It gives you a little box around this, and you can highlight in there to alter these things. So to alter it, you click on here, and that will give you a bunch of different fonts, and you can scroll up there. And as you can see, you can it gives you a sort of preview of what the fonts look like. I know one that looks quite good in this sort of scenario, and that's Bauhaus. So I'll try and find that. Where is it? There it is there. And I'll click that. You can see it's a nice solid sort of looking thing. Now that's all you need to know about text for the time being. We'll come back to it later on. Once you've got the letters or word that you want, or just the number in this case, you go onto your normal select tool, and you can click and drag that over to here, and holding down Control, you can actually shape that up to the way we want. So there we go. There's an 8-ball. Now you can do some sort of clever tricks on this now as well, so because it looks good as it is, but if this did have a light source, and you can see the gradient light that we've put on it around here, if it did have a light source up here, what would happen underneath is it would cast a shadow. So we can actually sort of fake that as well. So if I go along here, grab my tool, and now it's doing it in white because that was what we used last, and I'll just change that to black. Okay, and I'll get that so it's sort of sitting around about there. Send it to the back. You can't really see that it's not behind, but we will send that to the back and go like that. Alright, so that gives it a wee bit of a sharp shadow there. And what I'm going to do is get another one of those, and I'm sort of doing it in an oblong in a way. I'll click that, pop it there, send that one to the back this time, but on this one I'm going to blur it out. Okay, and that gives us the effect of a slight shadow there. Okay, and I'll reduce the opacity down on that one. Okay, So that leaves this one looking a little bit too strong, so I can size that down to make it sort of fit a bit better. There we go. And I will also blur that one out a wee bit, so it's a little bit less strong. Then it's just a matter of tinkering around with this thing until it sort of fits the bill a bit. Okay, so I go like that. There we go. Click off that, and as you can see, that doesn't look too bad. That would probably be in the middle. You can scale this down a wee bit. It's probably a wee bit big. There we go. There's an 8-ball, and it's got a sort of realistic element to it. Again, just tinker around with these things to get the look that you're after. You might want to blur it out a wee bit more or a bit less or whatever, but have a go. It looks pretty cool. Before we finish this one, I'm just going to show you that once you've used this graphic, if I go to move this whole thing now, undo, Control Z, they're all separate objects. So if you wanted to keep that one, you would click and drag across all of it and Control G, which is group, and then you can move it all as one independent unit. Scale it up, scale it down, and do whatever you need with it that way. So there you go. So that's actually combining quite a few of the techniques that we've already learned to create something like a proper graphic. Give it a go.